Welcome to another episode of Supportive Advice Live. I am so glad to see you all and hear that you guys are present. Thank you so much for joining. Remember, you can always check us out on YouTube as well as Facebook on Supportive Advice Live or our page Supportive Advice. And so we will begin. Mr. Machismo, how are you, sir?
I'm all right. I probably should have shaved, man. This caught me off guard today. Live that work from home lifestyle. You get to you be on a different type of time. But I'm all right though.
I think this is the audience's first time seeing you, Mr. Machismo.
I believe so too.
Yeah.
High
So it's a
possibility.
new
High possibility.
experience. Yeah. So I am excited. Obviously, as always, we are taking comments, questions. So if you are joining and you have a question, definitely feel free. And I will answer, right? Because that's what we do. So at this point, it doesn't look like we have any comments, so we can kind of just jump right in. Oh, when I called you earlier, it was not a pocket dial.
it was not. I was waiting on. I was waiting. I'm like, oh, it was. I just assumed it was just cause.
No, no, it was not a pocket dial. I was trying to share some exciting news with you.
Oh, really? Hey,
Yes,
never.
yes.
Be- Better late than never.
So I haven't really told too many people this as of yet, but I took our lovely podcast, Supportive Advice Live, and I submitted it to a couple local radio stations. And one of them got back to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. And so it, I know, right? And
Whoa.
I know. So, I went in, I talked to the program director, and oh, you gotta get that.
No.
That's you.
One of the few home studio. We're working on some kinks. We'll be all right next week. I forgot about that. That thing be just ringing and how it don't even exist for real. It's
Like,
just part of the
hello,
bundle.
Mr. Machismo, are you here? No, but I met with the program director, and they said that they liked the concept, but they wanted me to create something that would allow me to keep the podcast and then do something original for their station. And so I came up with a new show called Damage Control that will officially be airing on Cleveland's own 95.9 WOVU.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
Yeah.
Woo, woo. Oh, I ain't got no sound effects. Oh, that's the only thing I'm missing. The hand clap. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I am beyond psyched. So you all will be able to hear my lovely voice on the radio as well as via podcast. Also, if you catch this, I am actually looking for local artists in the Cleveland Heights area that might be interested in doing the intro for me. It'll be a good chance for some exposure. Obviously, we would mention you or your band on live radio, and so it would be, an opportunity to kind of be heard on more of a mainstream platform. So, if you are interested in doing that, definitely hit me up on Facebook. You can hit me up at Supportive Advice Live. You can hit me up at Supportive Advice. And then you can always email me at my first name, last name at supportiveadvice.com. And in the subject line, just put damage control. And so that way I'll know. Um, and so, yeah, today I got a submission. Um, just one so far. Um, I was kind of tempted to play the voicemail, but I won't do that. I won't do that. Um, but essentially, it sounded a little like this. Here, let me just a little like this. Baby in the background, noise, scramble, scramble. Then I hear, hey, hey, I want you to check out my song though. Help me out.
Well, what?
Baby crying, more fumbling, click. No name,
What? The
no,
insides of the studio, ladies and gentlemen.
no MP3 attachment, nothing original for, you know, uh, the intro, damage control, nothing, just baby crying and some rustling. Nice little sound effects there. And hey man, you listen to my song and help me out. Then more rustling, baby crying, end of message. So if you are interested, which apparently some people are, please do not submit that way. Okay. If you want to submit, do it professionally, whether it's, in my inbox or, emailing me. Um, there needs to be an MP3 attached, and there needs to be something that was specifically made for the show damage control. So just want to throw that out there so we're all on the same page. And yeah. So the deadline is March 20th, because that is when I'm going into the station to do my promos, and I want to have the song by then. So just throwing that out there, just trying to give some exposure to some people. Um, in the Cleveland, Cleveland Heights area, or I mean, not even just Cleveland Heights, Euclid, Ohio, area. Definitely want to, pass down some opportunities as they're passed down to me. So I just want to throw that out there. And yeah, so with
Dope,
that,
dope news.
yeah, I'm excited. I am excited. What are your thoughts?
That is dope. That is well, first of all, that voicemail kind of gave me hustle and flow vibes, man. It gave me a little bit of that, but there's that. But I mean, that's a real big deal. That take it from the new wave to the old wave, because
Yeah,
the
yeah,
old wave still is a wave.
yeah. It's a
Don't get it.
way, 100%.
That is a so that's a big deal. That's dope.
Yeah, I'm digging it, but we are still going to be doing the podcast. So Mr. Machismo, you hang tight, because we will still be doing this on Thursdays, alongside the radio show. Um but yes, that did kind of have some hustle and flow vibes. Like he sounded like being a little under the influence of something green.
Yeah, man.
Or, or purple, you know, green or
Little
purple.
Lucius. Well, I forgot his name. I forgot his name of that. But yeah, that definitely some of the vibes.
Wasn't he
But hey,
playing a little remember he didn't he have like a little kid piano
yep,
where he was making sounds with. I mean,
yep.
but real talk though, that song ended up being hot
Of
once he
course,
got Taraji P Henson on there
it's
to
hot out here. Right.
here for a pimp.
You'll be surprised. And then the one homie, who was that? Anderson, he got on there and hooked it up.
Yeah, I
Gave her
mean,
some quality.
it was nice, you know. Um, was not the best movie. I wouldn't give it a Cisco and Ebert two thumbs up, but you know, it got the job done.
It's a relatable dialogue for a lot of people, I'm sure.
Man, he was a pimp that was broke. Like he was a broke pimp.
There's one
Like
in every city.
I was just like, man, no. Like, do you know the lip service that you would have to have, right? To be a broke pimp? You know what I mean? Like it's one thing to like say, okay, you know, hey, let me take care of you, you know, this, you know, you just gotta do a couple things for me, you know. But
Man.
it's another thing, you know, but it's another thing to say, all right, so I'm gonna just need you to do those things. But I ain't really got nothing for you. Like after you do those things, you can split the money that you make with me, and then maybe I won't get my lights cut off. Like no, no,
real
no.
real oxymoronish.
I'm like, not the broke pimp. And then he had one of the pregnant.
Oh man. Oh yeah. It
See,
was
I'm
some
just
it
like,
was some
come
layers to
on.
that.
Like
It
you
was
doing it
bad
all wrong, player. You doing it all
backwards. Hustling
wrong.
backwards.
Like none of
Ooh.
this is supposed to be happening. This is not how this works. This is not how any of this works.
Yeah. Back to the commercial, right?
Good night.
This is
Right?
not how any of this goes.
Like, oh my word. Speaking of Terrence Howard, yesterday before I was about to go to bed, um, they had that thing going about Jesse Smollett and the hoax that apparently everybody's saying that he put on. Now I know this isn't new news, um, but Michael kept asking me, and for those who don't know Michael, that's my significant other. He kept asking me a bunch of questions, so I ended up just turning it off. But I'm just like, good night, let's go to sleep. But he was like, how did they know he was lying? You know, outside of the people who went and testified and said, well, he had paid us to pretend to have beat him up, and because apparently that wasn't enough, he wanted to know on top of that, you know, how did they know he was lying? And I didn't really jump into the Jesse Smollett thing like while it was happening. It just wasn't anything that was relevant to me at the time. Um, but I wanted to ask your opinion. How did you know? Like, what part of the story for you didn't make any sense?
Um, to be honest, it kind of went under the radar for me,
Oh, okay,
but
you too then.
I did. I really did. I'm like, oh, okay. And then maybe a week or two later, you hear about, oh, well, there's reports coming back that he was lying, and I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. Was he? Did he get beat up or something? It just didn't make sense because I mean, my thing is like, if you get beat up, like there's gonna be visible
Evidence
evidence.
of you getting beat
So
up. Yeah.
so now I definitely had questions where. So did you just how did you get the evidence? Did you have them beat you up for real? So I mean, technically you wasn't lying, but you just you left the part out about paying them. Like what? Like what's going on? Like what? What was the point? What were you gaining by this?
Right.
By
Like
having
he had a
looking like
show.
Martin, looking like Martin from fighting Tommy Hearns. What was the benefit?
Oh,
What was the
I remember
benefit of
that
looking like that?
episode. His head was like
Like
this big.
oh,
You want me? Give me kick.
Yeah.
BBA.
That's what I was about to
It's like,
say.
oh my
Can I
god.
have a kiss?
Yeah,
Yeah, he was.
I remember thinking I'm not that down a chick. You know what I'm saying? You gonna have to go and pull up, and your
That
head gonna
was
go back to
funny,
your regular size before I can help you
but
out with that. I can help you out with that.
man,
I'm not
real
Pastor Boo Boo.
Hasim,
I can't kiss. I can't. Nah.
real Hasim Rockman vibes right there.
Yeah,
If you know,
it's
you know.
crazy. Yeah, yeah, and I don't. I
It
don't know.
was a boxer who he lost the fight, and then as soon as he got up from getting knocked out, he got hit like in this part of his head, and when he got up, it was like Mount Everest on his head. Like
Oh
it knotted
no.
up so crazy. Like it was like I think he had to get it drained or go to the like it was a whole big deal. But it was a whole big deal from the optics. Like you,
It seemed
the
like a
the
big
the,
deal.
the visual was like, whoa! How did it get big in 20 seconds? Like this was different. That was something I had never seen before.
Said, how did it get big in 20 seconds?
Man, that was different. But that's what I imagine when you say you get beat up. Like you supposed to have some
Well,
Martin and all
he
that.
did have something going on with him. You know,
He probably had some.
he had something. But
He
I
was kind
just,
of not to be divisive, but y'all lighter skinned people, y'all just get maybe rub too hard on stuff. It turn red. Like I don't know. I didn't
um,
see pictures of him as to how he looked, but I assumed if you got beat up, you got beat up. But I think it might have been easier for him to kind of hide just
hey,
because.
Miss Sweetly, I see you. And just FYI, if you're watching and you want me to shout you out, you're gonna have to comment because I can't see everybody. Um, and I gave my moderator the day off, so it's not that I'm ignoring anybody. I would never do that, you know. But anyway, so his head swell up. Well, he, as far as Jesse Smollett is concerned, he did have some, you know, bruises or whatnot. You know, he had something going on. And he had something around his neck or something. I don't know. I didn't really get into it at the time. Um, but everybody kept saying he was lying. But I'm just like, what would somebody have to gain from lying about this when they already are famous?
Man, my
Like you're
thoughts
already
exactly.
famous. Like what is the I don't understand it. Like you're already famous. What else would you get from doing this outside of the jail time that they gave you? I
What
just
was
don't understand.
what was the end game?
He got 6 months, which he didn't actually, you know, serve or whatnot. But he, you
Of
know,
course.
but he did, he got 6 months. I think he served like 6 days of it. That's about as far as we got. I'm gonna have to look into it a little bit more, maybe watch it, you know, without the additional individual so that I can actually get into it and see what was going on because I just don't know. But apparently everybody was saying his story didn't make sense and that he was going out at 2 o'clock in the morning on one of the coldest days and to get something and then somebody came and jumped him and call and that it was like a hate crime. He was saying it was a hate crime and then people was like, nah. And I'm just like, how y'all gonna just say no? You know, it's like, what if that was his like he's been acting since he was little. It's not like he was trying to get like some type of 15 minutes of fame. You know, he obviously he obviously had an experience. I mean, what that experience really was, I don't know, but he apparently was having an experience.
That whole thing was an experience.
No, it was experience to me.
I'm not sure what to describe it or what to classify it, but I'm kind of happy that moment in history that has passed. Because if you look at it from what I understand, it kind of took out, it diminished his role in the show. Which, to be honest, I had kind of went opposite of that show because Power came out and it was over for that show. So Power just kind of trumped that. I couldn't watch them both at the same. It was one or the other. Ultimatum time. So I chose Power.
I did like Power. I like Power. I really liked Empire too. I think that when they decided to take the hiatus, or when the writers went on strike, or whatever it was that had happened, it kind of just like my interest kind of like plummeted. So when they came back, I was just like, you know. But moving on, maybe we can talk about it more when I have some more information on it. But I just was wondering, like, if there was something in particular that stuck out to you, because everybody was just like, that don't make no sense. People did believe him. Oh, okay. So my mom said people did believe him at first.
Oh, that's Mom Deuce. Hey, what up, Mom? Hey, Mom.
Yeah, that is Mom Dukes. That is her. And
Yeah, she right. She right. They did, but like it was like a open and shut case, like because like you said, like he rich, he famous, he ain't really got no reason to be lying. Like
right,
why
right.
why would he lie? Like it really like it was an open and shut case. Let's find these
People who did this
individuals
stuff, yeah.
and whatever to the fullest extent of the law. It was that type of
That's perfectly true.
vibes given, but once they got to saying some of that other stuff, it's like, wait a minute, hold on. Now that you mention it, why would somebody beat him up? Like what? Like it kind of changed the dynamic. Like wait a minute, let's examine this further.
But it's like, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt, man. Like, I mean,
mm.
or maybe you don't. Maybe they did. To be honest, I don't know. So I'm gonna move into something I do know something about, which is, am I the a-hole?
Oh, ding 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 ding.
Yes,
There we
that
go.
I
What up?
know something about. I know something about that. If I know nothing else, right?
Now we
And
get to the meat and potatoes.
and see, I like doing these, and I pick the ones that I do very specifically because they're dealing with things that I've noticed, or trends that I've noticed with clients. Things that individuals are kind of dealing with on a regular basis, and may want to talk about, have questions about, um but don't feel comfortable reaching out to a therapist, or whatever the case may be. So this is my light way of kind of opening up that dialogue. So with that being said, we're going to do just that. And okay, I'm trying to share. I'm trying to do multiple things at a time. Um, so hopefully that'll. Anyway, it says, "I am I the a hole for refusing to take down a picture that has my son's dead name?" Now, to anyone that doesn't know what that means, when someone is transitioning, right, genders, they have the name that they were born with, right, and then they have the new name that they're choosing when transitioning into a new gender, right. And so the old name becomes their dead name. So if you have a son, and for instance, his name is Christopher, right? And he decides that, well, I don't want to say decides, but he goes through the process of, claiming what he feels his correct gender is. And then he, at that point, is female, and his name is Christina. Christopher would then be what's called the dead name. So essentially, what she is saying is that she kept a picture up with the name from the previous gender, or essentially the name that she gave him when she birthed him, you know. So I'm just going to read it, and it says, I, a 42-year-old female, have a son being 19 male with my husband Tom. I hope these ain't the real names. Ben was born as a girl and realized by 16 that he wanted to transition and go from female to male. Okay. Me and Tom were initially supportive, and I took longer to come around, and only did so after Tom passed in an accident. Oh, and I realized how distant my relationship with Ben was. I bet it would be. Um, when Ben was born, Tom got a tattoo of our then daughter's name on his arm, and we have a lovely picture together of me, Tom, and Ben at a few months old at the beach where Tom's tattoo is visible. Ben doesn't like me to keep pictures up of him from the past when he was a kid or older and still female. So I only have pictures out in the house of him as a toddler and, as the adult that he is now, which I think is, more than, an awesome way to embrace, where he is in his life. Um Not to say that it's a phase or anything, but just, the decisions that he's made to be his best self, and to be his full self, the way he sees fit. So the only picture that I have not agreed to take down is the one of us at the beach. I really like that one, and Ben's only issue is the tattoo. But for me, it's one of my happiest memories. That day, and oh, I don't know. And I don't want to take it down. Ben is very upset about me keeping that picture up and says I'm being cruel. It reminds him of his dead name. Hmm. Tom passed when Ben was still female. So the only photo I have of us three that Ben likes, well, used to like, is the one at the beach where Ben is a lot younger and wearing a gender neutral outfit. Also, the photo is up in the hallway portion just outside of my bedroom, which is not anywhere near Ben's room and will not be seen by house guests unless they come in my room. So there's a lot of comments on this. Um, this is a hard one. It's a hard one because I have definitely assisted parents with grieving, you know, the thoughts of who they assumed their child would be, so that they could accept and embrace who their child is, you know, and it's even harder with the fact that it's coupled with the death of her husband. Because one thing that I've noticed is that parents grieve. Like if you have a son and and then they transition, parents will still grieve that son. And that process is very important for them to be able to embrace, you know, who, or how this individual would like to be perceived and how they would like to live their life. Like, you know, it's hard because the person is transitioning, so obviously they're going through something physically and mentally, but the parent is also going through something too, so it's a grieving process. And then on top of that, the husband passed. So that's rough, and she has this one picture, left, because she seems to be very respectful of how her son feels. And she's taken down all these other pictures of when he's still presented as female. And now the one picture that she has left of all of them together, he wants her to take down. And I think I don't know, that seems like a lot to ask. What do you think, Mr. Machismo?
Um, it's her house, so I wouldn't have she fully in her rights to have whatever she wants in her house, and you know, I'm a little I probably don't have the most popular opinion about subject matters of this type, but I see no problem with her having the picture up. If that's it's something that is very much close to her heart, and she's made that known, especially with her husband being passed. That's a little piece of him and them as a whole family unit. As she said uh in the what's her face, it's one of her favorite memories of him. In the what you call them things in the magazine, the article. There we go. As she said in the article,
I
one
didn't
of
know
her
where you was
favorite.
going with that, sir. I was just like, the what? The
I
her
could
nap?
not.
The her nap?
Man, the article, yeah, that she indicated very, very directly that was one of her favorite memories. So it's like you're gonna be insensitive of her not being sensitive to you, and she'd have been sensitive, and it might not have been the easiest for her. Like, come on now, it gotta be some give and take now. Like, if she got one picture, of your, because I've never
Right.
even heard of that term before. That you started. I'm like, when you said dead name, I'm like, oh, somebody passed. But
No.
you explain you explained it. So now, well, technically, I wasn't wrong, but I mean, but not in the way I thought, not the person I thought. But yeah, that I keep whatever I needed to keep to aid me in my grieving process up.
I mean, I get it, and again, it's a really interesting process because, like I said before, you know, it's not that a parent a lot of the time doesn't want to be supportive, but it's almost like it's not even almost like it's telling somebody who I carried, what I birthed when we did the gender reveal, all of these things, all of the expectations that I had that went along with that, that's wrong, or not, and not even necessarily wrong, but you know, it doesn't correlate with who you feel you are, right? And then there's the part of the parent that is like, okay, but are you going to still feel like this 10 years from now? Or is this just something you feel right now? Like what is the longevity of this type of decision, because they don't understand. They're not the ones having the feelings, right? Now, someone who goes through this process, and I've heard a lot of people speak on this, um it's not a choice. It's almost as if, no, I don't know why I keep saying almost. It's simply, you were born um in the wrong body. Like, it's like if you took me as I am and then switched me and put me into Mr. Machismo's body, and I'm just walking around like Mr. Machismo, but I'm me. That's, I'm gonna be like, hey, 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 what's happening? Why am I? Whoa, and what is that? And so it's gonna be a lot that I'm digesting. But then at the same time, you also have, the life cycle phases where you go into understanding identity and what that means, and then what that specifically means to you, whether you associate yourself as male or female. And people know as early as 3 years old, you know, I'm a girl, or I'm a boy. No matter whatever the body is that they're in, they whatever they're trying to get this out in a way that doesn't offend anybody. It's almost like you have a body and then you have a soul and a spirit, and that part of them doesn't match the body part, you know, and so they're trying to correct that, right? And that's fine and everything. There's nothing wrong with that. But the parent has had this expectation, since carrying you in their belly, and if there is a dad, since the mother was carrying, go to the ultrasound. They tell you what the sex is presented as, and then you have these expectations. Well, this is how this person is going to be, and it's really no different, to me. And this is my opinion, so please don't come for me in the comments. It's really no different to me than a person saying, in this family we're all doctors, so your career path is going to be a doctor. That's just what it's going to be. This is who we are. This is how you're supposed to behave. This is what I expect for you. And then that person goes and becomes a clown and starts juggling. Now I'm not saying that, transforming gender is equivalent to being a clown or anything like that, but I'm just saying it's far off from the expectation. It would take the parent by surprise. There would be um frustration and a lack of understanding possibly of what's going on. So, she even says we weren't supportive at first. You know, it sounds like the husband wasn't supportive, she wasn't supportive of the decision at 16, but it seems like after the dad passed, it was kind of like, okay, at this point, he was probably doing a lot of other different type of grieving, probably having, a lot of symptoms of depression, and so possibly she relented and, helped him through the process. But, like, it's like, come on, there's only, I don't know. I don't know if I would have got rid of the photo. It's like, if Ben is grown, which I don't know if he's grown or not, but I'm pretty sure based off of the way that this looks, he's at least 18 or so. If you don't like it that much, just move out. Get out. Just leave. But it's like I done took down every other photo in here, and no, no. You could just, I mean, at that point, from a personal, perspective, I would say, maybe it's time for you to start the differentiation process and move on. I don't know what you think, Mr. Machismo. Am I being too harsh?
Look, I would just say the mama is right because I don't want to say anything incorrect because I keep going back to a part in I can't help it. I keep hearing a part of the movie, the first Coming to America,
Oh no.
where where in the barbershop they like I'm gonna call him. His mama call him Clay. I'm gonna call him Clay. I can't. That's my feeling about all that. Everything to do with this whole, anything to do with this subject, like, cause that's something. His mama call him Clay. I'm gonna call him Clay. So like that's why I can't get beyond that. So I'll just leave it at that.
If his
Out of respect for everybody.
if his mama called him Craig, I'm gonna call him Craig. Is that what he say?
Clay. His mama
Clay.
talking about Cassius Clay because he was born Cassius Clay, but then he decided he wanted to convert and be Muslim. So he
Oh,
like his Arsenio Hall. Matter of fact, shout out to Arsenio Hall if you happen to be listening in Cleveland. But anyway, he like his mama called him Clay. I'ma call him Clay. So that's kind of he was
I
that's what he
remember that
was when he was
part.
born. That's
So
what's
it's
on his birth certificate. So that's what I'm gonna call him. His mama called him Clay, so I'm gonna call him Clay. So there's that. But I mean, we have respect for everybody. It's your life. It's whatever
yeah.
you choose. As long as I ain't hurting nobody, do there's everybody has their own life.
I mean, and that's true. And thank you for everybody who's joining. I am gonna just be completely transparent. I can't see the names of the people that are joining. If you want me to see that you're here, put a comment, say hi, something like that, then I'll be able to kind of recognize you. I am taking comments, I am taking questions. I am a licensed therapist in the state of Ohio. So if you have anything that you would like to run across me while I'm here, I am happy to answer any questions. Right now, we are talking about a parent who has a son, you know, and the son doesn't want any old pictures of his previous gender or the name, which again is considered a dead name when you transition genders. um and she is asking, is she an a-hole, right, for not wanting to take a picture down that has his dead name. And again, I think that that's really tough, because the husband has passed away. There's not a, and it's one of her favorite memories. It's like, I feel like that at some point, can we look at the intent? You know, the intent is not to harm, but then again, I don't know, because I've never been in that situation. I've never felt as though I didn't belong in my own body, went through painful procedures, taking hormones and everything to change to match how I feel within myself with my external appearance, and then have everybody still trying to call me another name that brings up all of this trauma and hurt for me. So I'm sure, like, that's rough, but I think at some point still you have to look at the intent, and the mom's intent is not to harm. She's put it up, to where she passes it, but he doesn't necessarily pass it. It's not downstairs for everybody to see. She's very respectful of the fact that he is carrying his life out as a male, but it's like, can she keep something? Even if someone actually passed away, we keep mementos. We keep things that remind us. It's like, I see it as more of a memento, and I don't know. Like, I don't think that she's an a-hole in that.
Yeah, absolutely not. In my opinion, absolutely not.
And that's all we got here is opinions, because there's no a-hole experts as far as I'm aware. I said, I'll be trying to read the comments. Following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. Oh, I am refusing to take down a picture of my family that has my husband's tattoo on display, which has my son's dead name on it. I'm looking for some comments. Honestly, it sounds like Ben needs some major therapy. If he can't even have pictures of the past, including his dead dad. Okay, so llama corn, which the picture looks like a a llama with a unicorn horn. Um, I don't know. I think that the llama corn might be missing the point, because I think that it's not about his dead dad as much as it is about that previous name that's on his dad's arm, and it also is symbolic because his dad passed away. So like that is forever, like he was buried with that on his arm. Like it's like there's he'll never know, the man that Ben became, and so I'm sure that there's a lot of emotion, that goes into that for Ben when he's thinking about his father and he's looking at that picture, and he also doesn't have any connection to that time period because he was so young. His mother does because she remembers being with her husband, holding her baby. Her baby's, well, I guess, a toddler at that time, but he doesn't have any connection to that. He probably doesn't even remember that day. Llama Corn also says probably best to also do some group session. Ben still lives at home, so they need to figure out how to live together. So I don't know if group sessions, more family, possibly family therapy, I think would be really awesome. That's definitely something that I would recommend is doing some family therapy. If you guys are still living in the home, you can do that virtually, you can do that in person. I offer family therapy services for residents of Ohio, at www.supportiveadvice.com. Again, that is supportiveadvice.com. But yeah, in this case, I would definitely say that therapy would be needed, but not just um family therapy, individual therapy too. Because there's a lot to unpack here, and mom is suppressing a lot. She's packed away so much. Like I feel like this is where she's putting her foot down, and she's like, "This is the last straw. I can't. I won't. I'm not doing it. I'm not gonna put away your father because you know it just happens to be during a time that is uncomfortable for you. But it's really hard because it's like if it's considered to him to be a trauma, it's like it's rough. But I mean, seeing as though at 2 years old, there's a strong chance that there's no real memory and attachment to that photo. I don't know if it would be traumatizing or if he's just pushing the envelope. But again, if he is 18 or older, maybe this is just a part of his differentiation process. And this is kind of the push, where they begin to separate, and he go his way and start his own thing, and she kind of creates an identity outside of being a mom. Another comment is a deceased father that Ben was on bad terms with when he passed. Losing the hope of future reconciliation will also mess a person up. That's very true. We just talked about that, where the father didn't want him to do the transition. They didn't say that him and the dad was on bad terms. He just said that they weren't really for the transition, but essentially the dad will never get to see the man that Ben became, and so that's probably a hard spot for Ben. So Pixie Girl says, where do you get that he was on bad terms when he passed? The person says that both her and Tom were initially unsupportive, but that it was not, but something, I don't know. It was her that took longer to come around than Tom did, and then Tom, died, and then she realized that they were distant. Such is not a lie. That tells me that Tom had come around prior to his death. And it says, what else messes a person up? Being told that you can't mourn a devastating loss like the death of your life partner. It's traumatic, and you will never be able to move forward until you ignore the critics and grieve the way you need to. A lesson I learned the hard way, putting everyone's feelings but my own first for a year and a half after my infant son died of SIDS. Oh wow. Wow. Yeah, that's so because I felt a punch with that one when there was some curse words that I blocked out or whatnot, but I felt some punch behind that, and it makes sense where that punch was coming from when she said that she dealt with the death of her infant child, which is I couldn't even imagine the type of grief. I mean, I agree. The mom should have a chance to grieve. It doesn't say the mom never got a chance to grieve. It doesn't say that the mom didn't grieve or hasn't gone through what she feels is an important grieving process for the husband and for um the expectations that she may have had while her child still was presenting under the previous gender. It doesn't say that. It just says that this is a picture that she decided to keep and that he wants her to take it down because it has his dead name. And if you take away all the other things, the transition, the dead name, all of these things, if you take, oh hey grandma, how you doing?
Oh,
My
mama
grandma
and granny.
here.
Hey, granny.
Yeah, with my Jane Wheelie on here. I see you, grandma. If you take away all of those other aspects, essentially you have a parent and a adult child that are not seeing eye to eye in the parent's home because the adult child is trying to force change on the parent in their home. And you see this over and over and over and over again, right? Because that is a part of the differentiation process. It doesn't matter if the person is transsexual, if they're homosexual, lesbian, straight, heterosexual. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's going to be a time period where this is going to happen. And I talked about this I don't know if maybe it was the previous episode that we did, but I talked about this where you have to go through the differentiation process. You have to find out who you are outside of who your parents tell you are, what values you were taught to have, what your family represents. You have to figure out who you are going to be as an individual, which means that you have to leave your family of origin to be able to invest in a system that is your own. And so it really is, it sounds more like it's time for him to invest in a system that is his own. It's time for him to invest in, leaving and doing his own thing, and allowing her to have her own space to do with as she pleases, and because I mean, I think the semantics of it with the individual being transsexual, I think that tends to like overshadow, if you let it, the actual pattern and dynamic of the behavior. It doesn't really matter if this individual was transsexual or not. This would still be taking place. This differentiation process would still be happening because it has to happen. Life, it's unhealthy if it doesn't happen. Thoughts, Mr. Machismo?
Uh, it's I'm sitting back enjoying listening to the licensed marriage and family therapist right now.
Oh wow, really?
I'm gonna just we're gonna keep it PC. But my thoughts continue to be. I'm gonna call his mama call him Clay. I'm gonna call him Clay. If that was the status, that's my status when it comes to this. Right now, we'll stop there, and I'll continue to listen and learn. I learned something already today. I was not familiar with that phrase. That seems a little
What?
harsh. A dead name. That's I'm kind of curious. Why I gotta be a dead name? The former name, the previous name, the name I used to have. Ooh, that's the dead name. Huh? Interesting.
That's what it's called.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. I mean it is, but for them it is like they are something something is dying, right? For something new to be rebirthed. It's like both of these identities can't exist. I can't be both um a male and a female. Like one of these things has to pass for me to be able to come into this new thing, you know. And so that's part of the process. Like this is my dead name. Some people actually go through a process of like, even having, it's not necessarily a funeral, but like kind of a celebration of pushing out what was and bringing in, what's new. Um, and yeah, that's just a part of it. But yeah, it is it the name is what they feel it is. It's just dead to them. It wasn't a name that they chose to begin with. It was a name that um their parents chose for them before they even came into the world, before they even knew them.
Ooh, thank the Lord for my uncle. I was gonna be named Ethan. It was gonna be Ethan or Nicholas. It was gonna
Oh
be rough.
God.
It was gonna that was gonna be rough, but my uncle came through and saved the
Oh, what
day.
did, what did he say? Name him after me, eh?
No, he just said Dante. So here we are. And
Oh.
I'm like, oh, I like that. Actually, I like that. Because his name Darnell, so it was a so
Oh,
he did have a arterial motive, which was a great one in this situation. Because Ethan might be a little different.
hey man, I don't know. I could kind of see you as Ethan. What you think?
I
No.
can't see no ain't no Ethan, ain't no Nicholas, ain't no. But
Oh,
I might be on a yacht right now though. If I was Ethan, I will say that. Now
hey, you
that
never know, man.
you
You
would have
never
to be a little. You would move a little different being named Ethan.
know.
You'll be in some different circles. They Ethan. I that's a thing. That's why names is important. Like names, it's some. It ain't just a natural physical thing with that. I'm sure we know it's a spiritual ramifications with that. What you name, what you call yourself, or what you call. So that's why I thought that the dead name that is very deep to me. But that's another discussion point for another time. But yeah,
I mean, it really is a discussion for, even this time. Because to you, you're saying a name is very, important and has a lot of different meanings. And so to have it die off, it sounds like it has some significance to you. that process?
Oh, absolutely. I just well, you what it say? You go into a battle knowing the cost. I know the cost of this battle to have this discussion about what that means to me. So I would chill out because I'm just Mr. Machismo. I'm just I'm just average joker. Giving my opinion, but yeah, that maybe have somebody else. Maybe have your significant other talk about that more one day, maybe a different platform, or bring them on as a guest, maybe.
Nah, no, I don't think I'm gonna do one.
Yeah, I don't. Well, that's a whole different rabbit hole. It'll be a little. What's what they say? These will get a little spicy for the pepper. Too spicy for the or whatever.
It's
I
spicy
forgot.
for me.
For the pepper, it was on this one show, American Dad. These are getting too
Oh,
spicy for the peppers. Something she was trying to find a catchphrase like these are getting too spicy for the pepper, but is it spicy? It got a little, it's kind of. Anywho, yeah, that yeah, going down that road, yeah, we'll just say, very interesting, very very enlightening perspective here.
so essentially, I'm changing the subject. Um, because that's what I do. Um, Differentiation, is conceptualized as a family level variable involving interactions that enable individuals to maintain both a sense of ongoing emotional connectedness, support, involvement, personal relationship, and a sense of separateness, autonomy, uniqueness, freedom of person, expression, and all of those things. So, that's why there has to be a disconnect when you don't properly differentiate and pass that, that phase in your identity. You run into those situations with people, living at home for elongated periods of time. They don't have the confidence to go out and do things on their own. They don't ever actually transition out of that um child role into an independent adult with their own autonomy and values and all of those things, because even though they may have that in the home, or depending on the type of parents you have, it might be suppressed, right? And it will continue to be suppressed as long as you remain in that role, because hierarchically, right, there is the parental system, and then there are the children, right? The parental system, the marital system, same system if you have married parents, and then below that is the child system. If you never go through the differentiation process where you leave your family of origin, right, then you are not getting to a place where you can become the head of your own household. And so you never leave that spot. Now sometimes it can be different, if there's a single parent or whatever the case may be, because a lot of times if there's a single parent and multiple children, one of the eldest child might migrate up, as part of the parental system and become parentified, where they have to take care of their siblings or whatever the case may be to kind of hold the weight. But when there are, two active parents, essentially that person will not be able to elevate above, where they are in the system, which is essentially not the most healthy. Now this is different, of course, moving out, having your own place, doing your own thing, establishing your own family, and then your parent coming to live with you and you taking care of them at that point. That's a different thing than never leaving. the parent home, and never leaving that role, throughout the entire life cycle phases. What are your thoughts, Mr. Machismo?
That's pretty. That's it's good to hear the technical terms for some of this stuff. Like kind of like when you said the differentiate, I won't even say it. The but that's. Would you consider a borderline synonym of that as being able to coexist? I think the only part that's missing from using the term coexist or learning to coexist is just because it's a you guys are interacting, but you are an individual, the other person's the individual, and you learn how to make that work in a relationship setting. Would you can kind of compare those two words kind of in a way?
I think when you think of regular relationship, like you think, two individuals that are on the same level, linking up together, whether they move in together, get married, whatever the case may be, is different than being born into a specific hierarchy, right? So let's say there is a grandmother, a mother, and a daughter all in one house, and there's three generations of females at that point. The mother is still, I mean, the grandmother is still at the height of the parental system. So that keeps the daughter, who is now a mother, in a lower in the hierarchy, right? Which can be confusing for the daughter, who is now watching them battle for matriarch in the home. You know, it ends up, sending very confusing messages as to what autonomy actually is supposed to look like, and what the expectation is of being an adult. And it also can create an environment where the daughter starts to lose respect for the mother, because they're both being treated like children.
Now that brings up an interesting point because I was went out to dinner for my one aunt's birthday, who was last week, and I kind of see her and my mother as co matriarchs. However, in the aspect where my mother is probably the one with, of course, the age, the wisdom, and things. However, the my aunt is kind of more the boots on the ground, if you will, where she's kind of interacting and doing kind of more active with things and the other family members' lives and things like that. And then I had the realization, like, as it's currently constructed, that which I mean, I kind of knew this, but it was just blatant to see. Like that kind of puts me overall, family wise, in a patriotic role, and it's kind of like it kind of was fascinating to me as far as like the roles where if there's certain stuff that has to be handled that would be quote unquote I know PC wise quote unquote that would be considered from certain generations as the manly stuff to do the stuff roles of the male stuff that help with the car, know who to call, things like that. Get put up a mount a TV, stuff like that. That typically would be considered male roles by we'll say 60s, 70%. I don't know. Maybe my math is off, but I just thought that was an interesting dynamic where that could be kind of relatable to a lot of families in this day and age, where it isn't just a black and white. This is the matriarch. This is there's a lot of variables with this thing now. Where 20, 30 years ago it'd be more cut and dry. 40, 50 years it'll definitely be cut and dry. Where we've progressed to this point where there's a lot of I won't say blurred lines, but the line of has moved as to where things fit. It kind of fits with each individual situation differently.
And I hear that, However, I also say the hierarchy is the hierarchy. You know what I mean? Now if there is a grandmother and a mother and a son, just because that son is the only male doesn't make him a patriarch within, because he's not on the same level as the matriarchs. You know what I'm saying? Because there is the parental system, then there is the, the apparently the well, there's the grandmother who is at the top of the hierarchy. Then there is the mother who is in some way still being treated like a child because she still has not differentiated out of that position. And then there's her son. Now he might be the male of the house. He might be fixing things, doing things, moving things, but he's not the patriarch of that house. There is no patriarch of that house because the grandmother is not married, so there's no patriarch. The mother is not married, so there's no patriarch. Now if he was to leave, you know and get married and have his own family, then he would be the patriarch of the family in which he created. But you can't be the patriarch in a family where that you didn't create.
Interesting perspective. Cause yeah, I kind of look at it kind of like a just kind of the way it's been shown to me and given to me, where there's I'm not talking the totality of the individuals living in one domicile, or when I use house, I think about your lineage, your if if your mother, her sister, her brother, her other sister, then you got uh the children from each one of them,
Oh well,
uh
yeah.
and where you fall into that line of things, where I this is a little odd, but that's the uncle that I mentioned previously, just because of the dynamic and just how life is. You know, I would say I would be more patriarch than him at this point. The way just life is set up, just the way stuff is. I just it's I believe like a lot of the this type of discussion is interesting and healthy because it kind of shows how I would use one of the new terms, how fluid stuff is nowadays. Stuff is very fluid. It's not set in a box. A voguing it's not set in the box like that, like it used to be. Everything don't just come cookie cutter. It's not a cookie cutter society anymore. It has
As
this and
if it
that and that.
as if it has ever really been, right? I mean, we can all argue that there have been perceptions of the expectation, but if you ever go into any family system, one thing you'll realize is that nothing has ever been black and white. I hear you say that you're taking on a more patriarchal role than your uncle, who I'm assuming is older than you, and is outside of the home. But I would liken it to this. Let's say I am a mom, right? And I have a 14-year-old daughter, but I don't have a husband, you know, or better yet, I'll do this. Let's say that I'm a mom and I have a 14-year-old son, but I don't have a husband. And then I also have a 7-year-old daughter. That 12-year-old son is going to migrate into a parentified role. Why? Because it's too much for just one person to do. So now I'm going to be leaning on my son to help me out with his sibling, pulling on him to be in a parental role, even though he's not a parent. So you can play different roles, but essentially he's not a parent, because at the end of the day, if he was to start getting out of pocket as far as his verbiage or whatnot, the response would typically be a stay in a child's place. However, when I need you to mosey outside of that place to help me to leverage things out, then you're parentified and I'm expecting you to act older than you are. So the hierarchy still stands, no matter what responsibility that you take on, but I can understand why you would say that it feels like that you are fulfilling a more patriarch type role in your family, just because of the strong individual that you are.
Now, when you said that, now this might be a little. This is kind of deep. I think because of the elevation of the child to a parental role, that has removed some of the levity from the parent to be able to discipline in a manner, because in a lot of ways you can't have it both ways. So it's kind of built a culture where the respect for the hierarchy is no more. It in the old days, you have the oldest child, as you said, taking care of the four siblings, treating them like they the mother themselves. But if that mama, like, if you don't shut up talking to me, they gonna shut up talking to the mama. Nowadays, that even if the kid ain't got no type of brothers and sisters, but they still put into a hierarchy of parental role where they have to provide for the family, or they have to do this or do that. They not listening to that parent tell them, if you don't shut up as much, because that there's been some ground game, there's been some traction game where it becomes almost an equal thing. And I think that is one issue with society and the family structure nowadays. And
I would agree with you, on that.
that was just interesting.
I would 100%, agree with you on that. I would also say that even individuals that are not parentified in this, day and time, just due to the structure of the limitations of the home now, there is a lack of respect, some would say a lack of healthy fear, for the parental system. If you have the general population and then you have government, but there's nothing between the general population and government as far as protection or respect or a healthy fear or whatever the case may be, then the general population will try to overthrow the government every single time, which is why people are put in jail. People are not, I'm talking about back in the back way back when they're put in jail, they're beheaded, they're, even when you think of like slavery, right? You had all of those slaves, you know if there was not a specific amount of fear between that created a divide between the slaves and the slave masters, the slaves would have they would have overthrown the slave masters, so they had to, take them out and make examples of them to keep that fear. Now in homes, there is less fear, which essentially, unfortunately, is equating to less respect. And so you have even children that have never had to do anything or take care of anything or do anything at all try to overthrow the parental system because there's no divide. There's absolutely no divide, because children and family services, even though I think that children and family services is very, very important, because there are children that were actually and still are actually abused, it has become, unfortunately, leverage for the child, you know, because now that a parent is scared to discipline their own child, not beat, okay, not abuse, discipline, which is different, not excessive. And I'm being very specific. Why? Because I actually used to work for Department of Children and Family Services. I've seen abuse. you know I've also seen someone get in trouble and call children and family services and break up their whole family because they were upset that they got in trouble. I've seen both things. You know what I mean? So with that being said, it's tying the hands of the parent. And if there's no divide between the hierarchies, at some point the general population will try to overthrow the government. And that's a lot of what you're seeing. I hear a lot of people saying, well, the kids, the parents seem more scared of the kids than the kids scared of the parents. Yeah, because the kids can get the parents thrown in jail with with different allegations. you know Parents are afraid of rocking the boat and taking a chance of messing up the whole family dynamic, with one phone call from one of the children. Like, I mean, I again, I understand and I agree that it is, a very important concept, 100%. There are people, unfortunately, that are abused, and it is unfortunate, and there needs to be a system there that investigates that. You know, However, within that system, every call, everything, every situation has to be investigated. So even if it's something that's unsubstantiated, right? You still have this person coming and knocking at your door, coming in your home, looking through things, and there have been times where maybe that event wasn't substantiated, but then they went in and they were like, well, you know these rooms are dirty, and or these, but just different stuff where it's like, okay, well, we're going to do, it's something called, you don't it's not where you take the kids, but you pretty much come to the house every single week, and visit with everybody, look at everybody, and and all this stuff. I can't remember exactly what it was called. If anybody knows exactly what that's called, you can put it in the comments. Um, Gosh, I really wish I could remember what that was called. But anyway, so even though it wasn't substantiated, they can still have that part linger on, where you're constantly dealing with children and family services on a regular basis. People are afraid I mean, in Ohio law, you can discipline your child. There are parameters in which you literally can discipline your children and it not be considered child abuse. But people are so afraid now that they're not disciplining their children, at least not from a corporal punishment perspective, right? And now the children are still being violent because people say, oh, well, if you hit your kid, all you teaching them is violence. You don't have to hit your kid to teach them violence. Okay? You don't. A baby will slap the holy crap out of you. And it does not mean you ever hit that baby or that baby ever saw anybody else hit anybody else. It's just a natural instinct. You don't have to teach your kid to be violent. I don't spank my kids. That's my own personal decision. You think they don't hit each other? Sure enough, they do. Not because I hit them, but because it's natural. Violence is something that is innate in us, unfortunately. And what you're finding out is that that gentle parenting doesn't stop the child from, not being able to regulate their emotions, uh throwing temper tantrums at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, punching holes in the wall, you know, and now the kid is bigger than you.
Hmm.
And since you haven't already instilled a certain level of healthy fear or divide, they're parenting you. They're telling
Man,
you what you gonna do and what you not gonna do. And they busting in your room and they taking stuff from you and they leaving the house when they feel like leaving the house. You know, there's if there is a structure in place, there has to be something that keeps it in place. And I'm not telling anybody to go around, beating on your kids or anything like that. I would never promote that. But I am saying that spare the rod, spoil the child is a very true statement. Because if there is no respect and healthy fear instilled early on, when that child grows and begins to topple over the parent, there's nothing to keep that kid in line.
man, my great grandma been passed away 34 years. I'm still scared. I'm still scared, man. There's certain stuff I'm just not gonna do, just because she might come out with the switch. She might come out with from behind the tree with the extension cord. She might get me with the zero gravity cliffhanger
Okay,
racetrack.
so that's not what I'm talking about. That is
But
not.
no, no, the whole thing is, I'm getting to a point where, like, well, I'm getting to the point, but basically, these were things that were available at the time, where the infraction happened. There was a consequence to my action. And the consequence was was punished with swift hits on my backside. And it wasn't something that, I got black and blue marks next day, which I mean, I'm kind of black, so, you probably wouldn't have seen them. But anyway, it's not something that had a lasting impression where it was physical abuse. It was a deterrent of never doing that again. And it worked. And, it was an explanation after most times. And before, it probably was, bada boom, bada bing. And to be honest, it didn't take me long to figure out I probably don't want to do these behaviors anymore. And I ended up being the golden child, the goody two shoes. What I just, all the way through. All through school had 3.5 or something because I'm still scared that lady gonna jump from behind that tree. There was a healthy fear, there was a healthy reverence of this person because I know the power that they wield. Where it didn't matter, stature. I'm lifting 225 11 times, 12 times. I would never use that against those individuals. Like it was done correctly. And that's I think that's it. It's all worse than it was. But the point because I still
Yeah,
remember
they just sound a little
that
like
zero gravity
that.
cliffhanger. I don't know if y'all, if you know, that zero gravity cliffhanger. That was a nice little cart. That then you had the little gun thing, and it made the cars go. Man, that was a great Christmas present. Shout out to pops. That was a great. I might look for that. Matter of fact, online after we
You
done.
see my
If they
face, right? I know
if they
you
still
do.
got them,
Your
man.
cheek,
But you
lips
see, I
going up.
I would I would enjoy. I would love to have that again because it's not a place of trauma. It's actually a place of endearment because I actually am thankful that rules limits were set for me. Not you just and then I ain't gonna lie. I know stuff happened for a reason. Like I know God ain't give me no kids yet because I wouldn't. You just be in a foster home. I'm gonna parent how I parent. I don't care who got something to say about it. That's it. That's all. You do what you want. You go live in a foster home. Go ahead and call if you want to. Ain't nobody beating you. Ain't nobody abusing you. I'm just making sure you're not like the rest of them. I'm doing what is my job, my responsibility. I brought you in this world. I take it no, but the point is like there needs to be fear. There needs to be a concern that my parent gonna
Healthy,
kill me if I do
healthy
certain
fear.
stuff. That is
Right.
of course, it's healthy, but it's still fear nonetheless. And it's something that you said that very, very much was very telling. The fact that they slapping stuff. It's a innate thing in us that we respond to physical interaction in some form or facet. And some of us, especially boys, now with daughters, that's I think I would handle that differently a little bit. Maybe tear them little legs up, but that's a different subject. But with the boys specifically, there's I believe there needs to be some force that's met because that's what we under that's how what our nature is, you know, for ooh, oh my goodness, for a lot of us. I'm just thinking about my pop side. Oh my gosh. But you like I would shoot. I ain't about to get hit. That would be a deterrent. You learn your lesson. You don't do it. You live to to play the game another day. You just do what you need to do, man. Back in those days. Ooh, good lord. That
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. When a stove is hot and you tell a child not to touch it, right? If if the eye is on, right? And you tell a child not to touch it, and the child touches the eye, you don't penalize the fire for being hot. You know what I'm saying? But what happens is a parent tries to discipline their child, and again, I'm not talking about abuse. So I want to be clear on that. But a parent goes to attempt to discipline their child, within the I wish I could pull up the Ohio. Maybe if I when I do the editing, I'll actually pull up the Ohio code around discipline, because there is one. Um, but let's say they're trying to discipline their children, not excessively, right? They're still penalized, because the having an open case against you, that's a penalty. Having people come into your house, that's a penalty. Especially if they end up coming weekly, that that's a penalty. Like, all of that is happening because you disciplined your kid. You know what I mean? But if a child touches a stove, nobody looks at the stove like the stove is the problem. They understand that that burn is part of healthy consequence, so that that child doesn't touch the stove again. Just like discipline, not excessive violence, but discipline, is a form of consequence that sets boundaries, healthy boundaries within the parental system and the child system.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, your stuff is just is what it is nowadays. You got to stay true to who you is and what you believe in, and everything gonna be all right. That's it. That's kind of all. Like it's just you know you make adjustments for what it is nowadays, but the stuff that you was taught these things for a reason, so you go about it and you carry things on that are positive, of course.
um so before we wrap up, I wanted to just go back to the am I the a-hole, just because I want to give some final thoughts. um Grief does not have a time frame. It doesn't say that the mother nor the son was unable to grieve properly or anything like that. None of that is within that context of what is being said. The only thing that's being mentioned is that there is a picture with the son's dead name meaning um, the name that was given to him when he presented as the previous gender, right? and he doesn't want that picture up. At the end of the day, whether he is transsexual, heterosexual, asexual, it doesn't matter. It sounds like that they're at a point where the differentiation process needs to occur, where it's time for him to get things together to establish his own system, you know, leave the family of origin, you know, go on his own, do his own thing, go, have some experiences, whatever the case may be. And then, you know, maybe down the line after he's lived some, he'll be able to um go through the exoneration part of the forgiveness process when he looks back on this situation and have a different perspective on it. But right now, he hasn't lived outside the house. He has all of these wants and demands. Um but he hasn't lived life outside of the bubble that his parent has created. So at this point, it's less to me about the fact that this person is transsexual, um and more about the demands that they're making in a home where they're not the patriarch. The patriarch passed away. They're not the patriarch, you know and there's definitely some, like, some murkiness as it relates to the system, because it's just like, why do you feel like you can demand anything from me? I am your mother and this is my house. You know what I mean? Like, why do you feel you can demand any of these things from me? Now, I mean, I understand making an environment that makes you feel comfortable, within reason, and it seems like she was willing to do that. But now we're getting to the point where we're making serious demands, and then calling the mom cruel, and saying all of these things, when really it seems like it's just that time for you all to kind of have that separation, so that you can get, pursue your own values and see where they stand up when you go into the outside world, and and live outside of the bubble long enough to gain tough enough skin to realize this is not what you actually think it is.
All
So
of that. Yeah.
long
Yeah.
story long, I don't think she's the a-hole. What's your final opinion, Mr. Machismo?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's not even a question. It's kind of because there's been accommodations made from what I'm gathering all throughout. So this one little thing for me is a problem. You can kick you can kick rocks with all that. I'm keeping it. And this is a personal I can't have a favorite. I can't have something that means something. Like that's just the audacity, the
Yeah, it's
entitlement. Like you no soup for you. you know no soup for you at this rate. Like that's wild.
he's
But
referencing the soup Nazi from Seinfeld, in case
yeah,
you
yeah.
all are unsure what he's
Shout out
doing.
to Jerry Seinfeld in case he catch this. Yeah, shout out. And my man who made Curb Your Enthusiasm. Shout out to him too. He's hilarious. That's the guy who created. I forgot his name. He gonna DDT me if he beat me probably. His name, I forgot his name, but he's hilarious, man. His sense of humor is hilarious. Check out Curb. I mean they're not sponsoring, but it's a good show. Curb Your Enthusiasm if you ever get a chance. And Seinfeld. But I digress. But yeah, yeah, it definitely not at fault at all for one what you want in her house.
I think you're right. She has made some accommodations, but compromise shouldn't be to the point where either person feels like a prisoner in the environment. And So it's really important that they, seek family therapy, and really kind of do a lot of I would encourage them to do a lot of reflective listening. Um and also I would also encourage, given the circumstances, that this is just might be time, this just might be how your differentiation process with one another plays out, and that's okay, because there has to be a boundary somewhere. If there's no boundary anywhere, then the differentiation process typically doesn't have to happen, because you're just pushing the parent into a corner over and over and over again. It has to be that one point where the parent says, no, it's this way or nothing. And then that is when essentially the adult child will say, okay, well, I don't want to do it this way, so I guess it'll just be nothing, and I'm going to go my own way. But there has to be a wall to run into, and I think this is her wall, and more power to her. So I know we talked about a lot of subjects today. We talked about differentiation. We talked about what a dead name is. We talked about feelings around when a offspring transitions, from the perspective of the offspring and the perspective of the parent. We talked about Arsenio Hall,
Mama call me
Seinfeld,
Clay.
and
I'ma call him Clay.
and curb your enthusiasm. So we talked about a lot of
Larry
different things.
David. Larry David. That's
Is
his
that
name.
what's his
There.
name?
Larry David. There we go. You shout out to Larry David. There we go. It came back.
We talked about hierarchies, patriarch, matriarch, being parentified, what that looks like, and what that does to the family system. CPS, Child Protective Services, what their role is and the importance of it, as well as the unintended consequence of it. So I think we went through a lot of things. Again, if you are interested in talking to a licensed therapist, you can always come and join us here at 6 o'clock p.m. on Thursdays, or six-ish. I don't know. I rarely hit that 6 o'clock mark. Also, I will be on Cleveland's own WOVU
Ooh,
95.9,
ooh.
um, doing a show called Damage Control, where I am going to be taking callers from listeners in the um, Ohio area, and answering questions and helping with conflict resolution and all of those things. So um, catch us on Google Podcast, Spotify Podcast, and Apple Podcasts. We do upload. I'm a little behind, I will admit, but I do eventually, upload, and there's some there that you can kind of check out. And yeah, I think that's about it. Also, if you're looking for therapy services, definitely visit supportiveadvice.com. Again, that's supportiveadvice.com, and you can schedule an appointment directly with me through the website. And I am taking new clients, families, couples, adults. um yeah, did you have any last words, Mr. Machismo?
Uh, nothing. I could nothing. Nothing. No, no. This was fun though. Learned some more stuff. I learned some
Well,
more
that's
stuff.
that's good, that if nothing else, as long as one of us learns something, it's all
Hey,
worthwhile. you
it's all
know
good.
you teach me stuff too, so it's great to have multiple perspectives here. I appreciate you, making sure that your perspective remains, respectful. I think that that's really important. um but I also want you to know that this is, it is a, as far as I'm concerned, a safe space that I am attempting to create for people to have different, it's late, differing
We getting there.
perspectives, and being able to have respectful conversations about it without um avoiding the topic. So, just something to think about, because we will get into some more uncomfortable topics, I'm sure. Also, I don't know if you guys got the part where we were talking about Jesse Smollett, but if you did hear the part about Jesse Smollett, and you heard us ask the question, what part about this story made you feel like he was lying? Comment that below. I want to know, what was it for you? What was the straw that just broke the camel's back for you, where you were just like, all right, no more, there's lies, you know we want to know. So I'm going to watch the documentary on Netflix, and so then I'm going to have more information on that when I come back on next week. And I really want to get into some of your comments about what it was for you that kind of let you know it's all lies. It's all lies indeed. You know. And thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. The world will be born with only one perspective. So, Mr. Machismo, I appreciate you too. And I'll see you all next week.
No sound effects, but